Give you this one here. Factoring, and the first thing we review is trinomials. And they're called trinomials because there are three little things there. Now remember, anything that has an x squared in it can be written as a trinomial, so don't get confused and say, if by some chance sometime you get x minus 4, is that a trinomial? Yes, because we could always put zeros in for the x. So this is also that. As long as it has an x squared, a square to it, we can call it a trinomial there. And if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, trinomials are broken down into two binomials if they are factorable. Because if you remember, if you take a binomial, let's say you have x plus 3, and you multiply it by another binomial, let's say x minus 5. Remember how we did that? That little helpful little mnemonic device Kate was called?
Foil.
Foil. Well, actually, this is factoring. This is called foil. Well, actually, no, this was foil, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is reverse foil. No. Really? Yeah. So when you did foil, you multiplied the two first terms together. X times x was x squared. To that, you are adding the outside terms, which are x and a negative 5. Right? Negative 5 times x. Plus the inside term, which is 3 times x. And then you have the last terms, which are 3 times a negative 5, negative 15. And 90% of the time, actually almost every time, you will be able to combine the two middle terms because they will be like. So you end up with the first term of x squared. There are no other x squareds there. You put these two together to get minus 2x. And then you have this one at the end, which is minus 15. There is the trinomial that you get from those two binomials. But what we're doing today is going backwards from that. You are starting with the 3-term thing. Ignore this 3 because that's part of today's homework. And you're trying to figure out what numbers, what two binomials will give you that. So, do you remember what the thought process is? Because I think we've done this. Haven't we done this? Yes, we have. We have. Say we have. Well, pretend like we have so I don't feel so bad about it.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh, yeah.
So here, if you want to know, the first thing you do, and always, this is step number 1, write this down, because this is where so many people go. You shoot yourself in the foot before you even start if you don't do this. Okay? With a real loaded gun?
My grandpa shot.
It's a pellet gun, but
Pellet gun.
Step number 1 is to, if you can, take a common factor out of all terms. Okay? Now you can't on this one. I'll let you write that down and then I'm going to hop ahead to the next slide so you can see one that does and you'll see what I'm talking about. Everybody got that written down? This would be a case where that's the case. If you look, all 3 of these, what number can you take out of all of them? A 4. So if that's possible, you need to do that first. If you don't, you're going to get yourself way confused in the end. So you would write a 4, and then you'd say, okay, factoring out a 4, I'm left with an n squared. I'm left with a what? I don't know, what's that? Minus 18n, and I'm left with a plus 80. If it's possible, you need to take out a common factor. And there could be letters that they have in common too. Like if this had an n, you could take out a 4n, but it doesn't. The only thing you take out is a 4. That's your first step, if you can do it. This one, we couldn't do it. Yada, yada, yada. Step number 2, and here's how this works. And you don't have to, I'm going to walk you through it like the hard. I'm going to give it to you in the baby form, and eventually your mind hopefully can think past this and faster than this. You need to think of all I hate that ringtone, but I can't figure it out. I'm loving it. I'm going to turn that volume down. Never happens. Okay. And what I mean by that is this, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Think of all possible combos that give you the last term. Okay? So you really start at the end here. And why is that? Because you know the last term is formed by whatever those two numbers are, and it has to be what you get when you multiply those two factors together. So in the back of your mind, or on paper if you have to, it's probably a good way to start this, you need to think of every possible way you can get negative 32. And let me give you them. You could have a negative 32 and a positive 1. You could have a positive 32 and a negative 1. You could have a 16, negative 16, and a positive 2. You could have a positive 16 and a negative 2. You could have a positive 8 and a negative 4, or you could have a negative 8 and a positive 4. Am I missing any? 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. These are all, and not all of them will have this many choices. Some will have more, but most will have probably fewer. Okay, you think of all the possible combinations you can get that, and you need to pick the one. Let's go with a lovely shade of green. Step number 3. Pick the one that, when added together, gives you that middle term you want. Gives middle term. Which means this. Only one of these combinations will combine to give me a positive 4. And that's the one that you want. So if you look at each one here, if you add these together, you get a negative 31. These together, you get a positive 31. These together, you get a negative 14. These together, you get a positive 14. These together, you get a positive 4. And these together, you get a negative 4 when you add them together. Only one of them gives you the positive 4. That would be this one. So the two binomials that would give you this is, and you can pick whatever letter you like, x plus 8 times an x minus 4. And that really is reverse FOIL for the most part. Instead of getting your first term first, you kind of go back and think about how do you get the last term. Eventually your mind can process this kind of in your head. But some of you maybe not, I don't know. So going back to this one, notice I already did that first step from before. Okay, and this 4 needs to stay at the end. When I get my binomial, it'll be 4 times whatever this ends up being in my binomial. So here is your thought process. You have to think of possible ways to get 80. Oh boy. Now to narrow it down, you know you need to get an 18 in the middle. So 80 and 1 is probably not going to there's no way to get a 18 with an 18 or an 80 and 1. So you can kind of get rid of that. You don't have to think too much about that. What else? Well, you could think 40 and 2, correct? But is there any way with 40 and 2 to add up to get an 18? No, so you can kind of rule that out right away. What else gives you 80? 8 and 10. Is there a way to get 18 with 8 and 10? Yes. Yes, so that's the numbers you should think about. You need to be able to get a positive 80, right? So how do you get positive 80? Well, either positive 8 times positive 10 or negative 8 times negative 10 will also give you a positive 80 there. But only one of those two gives you the negative 18 when you add them together. And which might that be? This one. So your answer would be x minus 8 times x minus 10. This is the factored form of that. You happy? If you're happy and you know it. Let me give you one to try. How about this? What if I said, a squared plus 6a plus 5. What binomials multiplied together will give you that? What binomials multiplied together will give you that? The beauty of that is 5 really only has 2 factors. You don't have much in the way of choices there. Stairs there. Can we get it? Okay. So only 2 ways to get positive 5. That's either a positive 5 and a positive 1, or a negative 5 and a negative 1. Only one of those 2 combinations would added together give you 6. Which, Isabel, is?
A plus 5 times A plus 1.
A plus 5 times A plus 1. Someone says, yes, let's try one more. Let's do a harder one. How about this one? 6x squared plus 36x minus 96. I give you a chance for that one because this one is a touch, just a teeny bit more complicated. Oh, look, Bradley's got to check his multiplication tables. Answers we have yet? Don't forget, rule number 1, can you factor something out of all of them in this case? Absolutely you can. Absolutely you can. Raise your hand if you have an answer. That scares me a little. Oh, I got 2, 3, 4. Follow the clear, concise steps, please. By the way, it's going to be kind of obvious here, this first term will not have a number in front of it, so the common factor is 6. You took out a 3, that might not help out as much as 6, right? Luke, did you get an answer?
6 x minus 5 times x plus 11.
Alright, let me see. So you took out a 6, and you are left with an x squared plus 6x minus, what's that, 16? Yes? So the 6 is going to stay. Don't forget about it. Don't just write it off. It's got to stay. There's a factor. Now you got to think about different ways to get minus 16 when added together to give you a positive 6. So I'm just going to shoot some down and look at it. Well, we could have minus 16 plus 1, but there's no way with those I'm ever going to get a 6. So I can forge ahead. How about an 8 and a 2? Ooh, there's going to be a 6 in there somewhere. I just have to find out the right combination. All right? And then 1 has to be negative because that's the only way to get negative, and the 6 needs to be positive. So I am going to guess my 8 needs to be bigger and positive, and my 2 needs to be negative and smaller. Oh, more than you'll ever know. So you end up with an x plus an 8 and an x minus 2.
Cheap for you.
No, they didn't bring it back.
They need that.
Oh, what? He said he needs an napkin? Look, do you see where you went around? How many people got this? Oh, which birthday is it? How many is it? Is this your 11th? Congratulations. I remember when I was 11. I was a lot of days this one, right? Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
Point me in the direction where you don't get what if you're not getting this. 'Cause I can't spend forever on this. This is not super handy. How many people factored out the 6? Where did you go wrong on this? Something? Anything? Didn't get how I got -16? And if you didn't get it, did you write down all the factors? Maybe I went a little faster. You could have put 4 and 4, but there's no way to get a 6 with 4 and 4. So you can't, I mean, it just isn't gonna work. You gotta think about how to do it. Alright. Another one. Uh-oh, push the wrong button. Hold on. How about this one? Children of the proverbial corn. X squared plus 14x plus 40. 14x plus 40. X squared plus 14x plus 40. 14x plus 40. No common factor, because if there's no number in front of the x, you're not going to have one. You just have to think about the different ways to get 40. When you multiply things together, when you add them together, you'll get a 14. See, there's 8s and 5s, there's 2s and 20s, 40s and 1s, 4 and 10. Maybe I'll break it all the way down. You know it's going to end up looking like this. You're going to have an x here and an x there. Factors to give me positive 40, either positive 40 times a positive 1 or a negative 40 times a negative 1 will also give me positive 40. I've got a positive 20 times a positive 2 or a negative 20 times a negative 2. I've got a positive 10 and a positive 4 or a negative 10 and a negative 4. I've got an 8 and a 5, either both positive or both negatives in the same. 7, 6, 5, 4. Only one of those combinations will give you a positive 14. This gives you positive 41, negative 41. Positive 22, negative 22. Positive 14, negative 14. Positive 13, negative 13. This is the combination that gives you the 14 that you need. So it should be plus 10, plus 4. I can break it down no more farther than that for you. Enough to